Pathfinder 2nd Edition is full of feats. Can't get anywhere without feats. And I'm here to tell you, the GM, that they're not just here for the players. Hey everyone, Utkarsh from Spirit Bell Games here. Today I wanted to talk about all of the different ways that the GM can use feats on their side of the table. In this video, I'll just be talking about the actionable steps that you, the GM, can take. There's an expanded version of this video which also talks about the design of feats in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which makes them amenable to these sorts of usages. And that extended video is available for free on my Patreon. Go check it out. Again, it is free. I say that every time, but everyone associates Patreon with paid membership. So it's understandable that you may think that, but everyone associates Patreon with paid membership. So I'm just repeating it one more time. You can watch that extended version for free. Okay, let's get into the list. Usage number 1. Feats as surprise rewards. When your players accomplish a major goal, you can pick a selected feat for them all to receive as a reward. Let's say they do something very nice for a druidic tribe. You can just give them all continual recovery or natural medicine, or the animal empathy feat, which lets them speak with animals. Or you could go the route that my GM Tegan did, which is that instead of giving a feat, he let us pick one. After we completed a major mission for a martial, well-organized group, the martial leader let us pick a trainer who would train us with any one level 4 or lower class feat from the fighter or monk subclass. This gave us more options, but also we were level 10. So a level 1, 2, or 4 fighter or monk feat was not as much of an upgrade for all of our classes as it would have been had we been level 1. So I will make a case in the design section of this video that even then it would not have been a game-breaking upgrade in many cases. So this is the first type of feat usage for the GM. Give out a feat as a reward, as a surprise reward for something that the players have done, a major goal that they've accomplished. The second type is similar, but instead of the reward being a surprise, you talk to them and work with them to get them to a feat that they desire more quickly. So this could be a feat within their class, or this could be a feat that they otherwise would have to go through a lot of hoops archetyping to get to. You have to here make an assessment about the power level of the feat. But again, I'm going to argue later that unless the feat itself adds damage or has scaling damage, for the most part, you should feel free to negotiate with the players any feat that they feel is necessary to their build. This is something that I have done more recently with, for example, a champion that was playing in my game who really wanted the Shield Warden feat. And because that feat would have helped him use his reactions to help out others, I thought that this was a great opportunity to give him a mechanical quest, sort of a way of doing narrative leveling, and then reward him with the feat where the specific quest that I assigned for him was that he needed to have his shield raised and then use his champion's reaction to protect his allies 5 times. And when he got that done 5 times, I would just give him, his character, the Shield Warden feat. I will say a part of me wishes that all feats worked this way, because I enjoy the concept of narrative leveling instead of you just becoming better at something mid-dungeon, that you can work towards the feat that you desire. And maybe this is something that I will experiment with in my future games, is to try and let players get their next class feat 1 level sooner if they do it via narrative leveling. Well, I guess we've stumbled onto point number 3 then, a potential use, which is narrative leveling, a way for you to use feats. Because unlike the mechanical leveling that happens with numbers, the numerical leveling, feats are something you can get your players to sort of work towards. Now, in all of the ways I've talked about so far, you are giving feats to the players as a reward, and these feats are unrestricted. Once they have them as if they got these feats from a class feat, for example, or their skill feat or general feat, whatever type of feat you decide to give them. Because these feats are unrestricted, you have to use your judgment on what's appropriate and what's not. For example, giving a level 1 monk the level 6 Key Blast feat. On the other hand, giving your water kineticist the natural swimmer feat. Level 1 water kineticist can maybe work towards the natural swimmer feat to get a swim speed. Like if you think that's appropriate for your campaign and it won't be game breaking in any kind of way, go for it. Even though it's a higher level feat, should be fine. That said, point number 4 and 5 are going to be ways of giving your players powerful feats in a way that constrains them. So number 4 is give them feats as consumable items. So something they could use as a one-off and just go ham. For example, a level 4 fighter getting a single-use, non-repeatable, non-craftable version of the Whirlwind Strike feat, level 14 Whirlwind Strike feat, is going to be very memorable to that early game play. At higher levels, you can give them lower level feats as craftable consumables, which is something that Pathfinder does. I've been talking about fighter feats a few times, and the Fear Gem Talisman just gives a player the Intimidating Strike feat to use. So this trade of money for temporary feat usage, there's already precedence for this in the system, and you can add to it with feats that you think are appropriate. Now, let's say you don't like consumables. Let's say your players don't like consumables, or maybe they claim to like consumables, but they never end up using them. What do you do then? Well, that's when you can give them a once per day usage attached to a magic item. So, for example, for a level 8 fighter, say, I would not consider it unreasonable to give them a specific greatsword that had a once per day usage of the Whirlwind Strike feat. Now, depending on the power level of the feat, you can make this custom magic item more or less constrained. Well, it's harder to say how it could be more constrained than just once per day, but less is certainly possible. Once per hour usage, once per 10 minutes, once per minute usage. Or you pick weapons that they find thematically appropriate but with a low damage dice, and then attach the feat permanently to those weapons. For example, if the rogue really wanted the double slice feat, then I might provide them twin daggers that if they wielded those two in each hand, they can use double slice, but only with that D4 weapon, the dagger. If you come across players having cool ideas for weapons that they want to use, but they find that the actual damage that the weapon deals is not up to par, then instead of improving the damage of that weapon, my recommendation is to add a feat to that weapon usage, potentially a once per minute usage, or maybe unconstrained. All right, so today, 5 points so far have been about using feats as rewards for the players, but that's not the only way you can use them. There are 2 others I want to talk about. The first one is giving feats to your enemies. No, not your enemies, their enemies, to the monsters that you throw out on the battlefield. In a previous episode, I talked about monster roles, and that the same monster can play different roles depending on the scenarios that they're in. But you can enhance and highlight their role even more by giving them a particular feat or class feature. For those of you who've thumbed through the monster manual, you will have noticed that a few different monsters have class features like the Barbarian's Rage or the Rogue Sneak Attack, just worded slightly differently and given a different name. And you can do the same thing with feats. For example, I was running some mid-flits against a party, and this was a low threat encounter, so I knew I had some range to be creative with the environment and with the creatures. And so instead of all 6 mid-flits being the same stat block, and I gave 2 of the mid-flits the nimble dodge feat that rogues can pick up, because these were supposed to be the frontliners. I gave 2 of the lurkers I think I just bumped their stealth score. And for the 2 ranged mid-flits that were throwing darts at the PCs, I gave them the quick draw, and throw. It was still an easy encounter for them to handle, but it gave the different mobs more texture, more character. It made them really play up their roles. The dodging mid-flits were the frontline skirmishers, the ranged ones were the artillery, and then the ones that were hiding were the lurkers. So you can use feats and class features against the players by giving them to the enemies. I would just recommend you don't do that with encounters that are already approaching severe threat or higher. Finally, the seventh and last usage of feats I want to discuss is for improvisation. This may sound odd because for a lot of the community, they see feats as gatekeepers to improvised fun player actions. That if a barbarian, that second level, wants to swing their sword in a circle to try and hit all of the different enemies, they think that, well, Whirlwind Strike exists as a feat, so I cannot allow the barbarian to make that circle strike. And I want to argue that no, actually, feats, instead of acting as gatekeepers, here, feats are actually acting as improvisation aid. And they do this by being the upper bound on what you can allow. Well, in this case, just beyond the upper bound of what you can allow. You know that the Whirlwind Strike feat exists. You know the accuracy and the action compression and the reach that it allows for. So if the barbarian, that second level, wants to try and make this improvised attack, you can use your judgment between the lower level threshold of the barbarian just striking each of the characters within reach just by regular strikes with multiple attack penalties, versus the upper threshold, which you cannot allow, which is the Whirlwind Strike feat. Maybe I'll allow for strikes on all of these creatures with a -2 penalty and for half the damage you would have normally dealt. And this makes the barbarian think tactically whether this is a good option or not. I have a longer video that talks about all of the different ways you can handle improvising, whether you know a feat exists for something or not. And you can find that video also for free on my Patreon. Okay, so those are all of the different ways that a GM can use feats. Let's just quickly go over them again. You can give them as surprise rewards to players. You can give them as rewards that are predictable that they can work towards. You can take that idea of working towards a reward and make it a sort of narrative leveling where they have to do actions that are related to the feat so that they can achieve it. You can use as consumable one-off items like some of the talismans, like the Fear Gem. You can use feats as custom magic items, maybe once per day usage, or low-powered weapons that just permanently have the feat available to be used when wielding those weapons. Beyond just using feats as rewards, you can also use feats on the enemies to be able to distinguish between the different roles that the enemies are playing. And finally, you can use feats as these improvisation tools, such that even if the player does not have that feat and they want to do something similar, you now know the upper threshold of what you cannot allow or should not allow, and you can improvise something that's just a little bit worse than that. Maybe less accurate, maybe less effective, like less damage or less healing, or maybe just takes a little bit longer. So this has been all of the actionable advice. And if you want to hear the design part of why feats in Pathfinder 2nd Edition enable these 7 steps, then you can, again, check out my video on Patreon. In the upcoming video, I want to talk more about feats, but specifically, I want to talk about skill feats and all of the different complaints that people have about skill feats, some of which I share and some that I disagree with. For now, this is me signing off, wishing you all engaging games.